Saluton from BA. This is a Rorschach Multilateral update from the 11th of February 2025, a summary of what's going down in the world's major multilateral institutions. Starting with the UN this week, the United Nations High Commission for Refugees announced on Friday the 7th that since Assad's regime in Syria fell in December, almost 300,000 Syrians have returned to the country. Some European countries have paused processing Syrian refugee applications. Returns have come from places like Turkey, Lebanon, Jordan, Iraq, and Egypt. However, internal displacement remains an issue, with over 650,000 newly displaced since late November 2024. Additionally, offensives by Turkish-backed militias have forced many Kurdish families from their homes. The resettlement of Syrian refugees raises long-term questions about whether the new government in Syria will be stable. Also on Friday, Mark Rutte, NATO's Secretary General, announced that in 2024, European members and Canada upped their defense budgets by 20%, totaling about $500 billion. This boost comes after US President Donald Trump's push for allies to spend more on defense, especially following Russia's 2022 move into Ukraine. Since 2014, NATO countries have aimed to allocate 2% of their GDP to defense, a goal now met by 23 out of 32 members. Canada was not one of them in 2024. Recently, Trump suggested increasing this target to 5%, a benchmark no member currently reaches. Hong Kong announced plans to challenge the US's recent 10% tariff on its products by filing a complaint with the World Trade Organization, or WTO, on Friday the 7th. Hong Kong's government argues these actions violate WTO rules and overlook its status as a separate customs territory. This move follows China's request for the WTO to intervene in American coast trade disputes and its imposition of retaliatory tariffs on certain U.S. imports. As President Trump has threatened to tariff countries all over the world, it is unclear which threats he will follow through and how much of these threats are simply a tactic to convince countries to do what he wants. In the EU, Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania officially cut their electrical ties with Russia and linked up with the European Union's power grid on Sunday the 9th. This move aims to boost energy security and reduce reliance on Russian energy. Ursula von der Leyen, the European Commission president, hailed it as a new chapter of freedom and independence from Russia. The urgency for this shift grew after events such as Russia's annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the 2022 invasion of Ukraine. Other nations in Europe have also been decoupling from Russia, particularly in the energy field. In response to repeated criticism from President Trump, the UN Secretary General defended the organization's role on Wednesday the 5th, highlighting its efforts in global peacekeeping, humanitarian aid, and addressing climate change. He acknowledged challenges but underscored the importance of multilateral cooperation to tackle worldwide issues. This exchange reflects ongoing tensions between the US administration and international institutions regarding their effectiveness and the US's role within them. The Secretary General's response to Trump also highlights how influential the United States is in multilateral politics. On another note, the International Labour Organization, or ILO, announced that it would be collaborating with the government of Bangladesh on a childcare initiative on Sunday the 9th. To boost the service quality of national childcare centers, the ILO is helping train and certify daycare managers and teachers in collaboration with the Bangladesh Technical Education Board. This initiative aims to professionalize early childhood education, create decent jobs, and encourage more women to join the workforce. In oil news, a fund associated with the Organization for Petroleum Exporting Countries announced on Thursday the 6th that it has teamed up with the Commercial Bank of Dubai to provide a $50 million loan to Paraguay's Banco Continental. This cash will help Banco Continental lend more to small and medium-sized businesses and support the country's agriculture. The goal is to boost Paraguay's economy and strengthen its food supply. It's also the first time the Commercial Bank of Dubai is getting involved in Paraguay, marking a new chapter in international cooperation. In South America, on Wednesday the 5th, Guyana's health minister announced that the country is now sending influenza samples to the World Health Organization to aid in vaccine development. This initiative follows the Pan American Health Organization's accreditation of Guyana's National Public Health Reference Laboratory last year. Guyana's laboratory has improved capabilities and enabled the country to contribute valuable data to global health efforts. Also on Wednesday the 5th, Argentina announced its decision to leave the World Health Organization, or WHO, citing significant disagreements over the organization's management during the COVID-19 pandemic. President Javier Milei was especially critical of the extensive lockdowns. Milei's decision is expected to face opposition domestically as it requires congressional approval. However, Milei is not the only critic of the WHO. Some argue that it has been slow to respond to global health crises, such as its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic, where it was accused of initially downplaying the virus and being overly influenced by China. Some also believe the organization is overly bureaucratic, making it inefficient in emergency situations. Still, others think that the WHO provides vital research, medical guidance, and emergency aid to countries in crisis and is a necessary and helpful multilateral institution. Its efforts in setting international health standards and addressing global health inequities have saved millions of lives. The Food and Agriculture Organization, or FAO, reported on Friday the 7th that in January, global food prices saw a drop, largely driven by falling sugar and vegetable oil costs. Sugar prices decreased by 7% due to better global supply, while vegetable oils saw a 6% decline. Meat prices also dropped, but dairy prices increased. The FAO revised its forecast for global cereal production and trade, expecting a 6% contraction in international cereal trade for the 2024 to 2025 period. Shifting gears, on Friday the 7th, President Donald Trump signed an executive order imposing sanctions on the International Criminal Court, or ICC, accusing it of unfairly targeting the US and Israel. The sanctions include asset freezes and travel bans for ICC staff and their families if they investigate or prosecute US citizens or their allies. This move follows the ICC's decision to issue arrest warrants for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and Yoav Gallant, the former defense minister, over alleged war crimes in Gaza. In more war news, on Thursday the 6th, the UK condemned Russia's treatment of Ukrainian prisoners of war at a meeting for the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, accusing Russia of systematic torture, abuse, and executions. These actions violate the Geneva Conventions, according to the UK's deputy ambassador. Citing reports from the UN and some human rights organizations, the UK has called for immediate action, including independent investigations into these crimes. The UK also urges Russia to ensure the humane treatment of prisoners of war. Russia has faced numerous accusations of war crimes since it invaded Ukraine in February 2022. For our last story this week, the Court of the Economic Community of West African States and the UN High Commission for Refugees outlined their 2025 joint plan to protect vulnerable groups in West Africa on Friday the 7th. Their efforts focus on refugee and statelessness issues, legal capacity building, and human rights. Key initiatives include coordination meetings, training for legal practitioners, awareness campaigns, and field assessments of refugee conditions. This collaboration, based on a 2022 agreement, aims to strengthen legal protections and provide greater access to justice for displaced people across the region. And that's it for this week. Thank you for joining us. A huge thank you to all our listeners who tune in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other platforms, especially those who help spread the word by sharing the show with friends and family. If you'd like to send an episode as an MP3 file, You can download it directly from our website at www.rorschach.com/multilateral. The link is also available in the show notes. Thank you. See you next week.